world? This is Wade Anderson with
What's
another
up?
episode of Shop Matters, sponsored by Okuma America. Joining me here today is Nick from, tell me your exact title. I always want to say AME and Hennig, but tell me your exact title.
Well, they're sister companies.
Yeah.
They're both owned by my family. So
Okay.
I lead sales and marketing for AME, which is Advanced Machine and Engineering, and then Hennig, which
Right.
is, chip management.
So I always
machine
think of the
production.
Goellner family, but you really have companies underneath there, and people know those names probably better than the
Yeah,
Goellner
and a
name.
lot of people know me from Making Chips, the podcast that I
Sure.
host. So
Yep.
you're a podcast host too, so you kind of know the drill.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Fantastic. Well, we're excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks.
So I guess to start with, tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are of IMTS 2022 so far.
So we've been involved on the Making Chip side,
Yeah.
promoting it, planning it, and what we were told is, might be the biggest show ever. The last time, I think it was 2018, it was a record-breaking show, and they were saying it's going to get close to that. Maybe after the pandemic, maybe it won't exceed that. But man, look around here. It
Right.
feels just as busy as it did in 2018. So I don't have the
does.
numbers or anything, but
Yeah.
we're feeling really good about it. So
Yeah. Yesterday the booth was busy. I mean, as soon as it opened, the booth was busy, and it didn't stop really till 6 o'clock. And I was kind of optimistic. Today should be busy. I went over, did a little opening thing with AMT, and I was shocked. I couldn't hardly walk back into the booth when
it's
I
like
walked
the
in.
flood,
I'm like, wow, this is
the
fantastic.
herd of people. Yeah. How are your
So-
feet?
My feet, it's funny, I'm getting old, right? I've been coming to Chicago since 92, and usually it's my feet that bother me. And doggone, it's my back and my hip this time.
That's worse than your feet.
I think it was Kelly I was talking to earlier that yesterday was day one, or it might have been Dana, but yesterday was day one, right? Monday, day one, and I left here worn out, exhausted, tired. Like, oh no, this is day one. I gotta go till Sunday.
I did the same thing, and then I had the nerve to go to the Eric Clapton concert at the United Center last night. So it was worth it, but I'm
That's
definitely
a
a
great way
little
to blow off
drained.
some steam.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was awesome.
Fantastic. So I guess tell us a little bit about AME, what you guys do with AME, and then we'll talk about chip management.
Yeah, so AME is pretty segmented. We have different business units. What we do is always complementary and peripheral to the machine tool builders.
Right.
So there's a small booth with Ott Jacob here in this hall, and what that is tool clamping.
Okay.
So not the spindle, but the tool retention system inside the spindle.
Right.
And then in the West Hall, we have a work holding booth. We're the largest domestic producer of tombstones for horizontal milling machines.
Sure.
And we design and build fixtures all around that. So
Okay.
all the modular work holding, or sometimes it's dedicated hydraulic, automatic work holding. But really the part clamping aspect of machining is
Right.
kind of our forte. And so
Okay.
we operate as an integrator for some of the major work holding brands like Shunk, who's
Yeah.
a partner in Think, or
Right.
we work a lot with Vectech if it's hydraulic, or we work with Fifth Axis. We work with a company out of Switzerland called Triag that's really cool modular system, but
Yeah.
just stuff that the manufacturer needs to hold the part.
So I gotta put a little plug in for Vectech, being you brought them up. If anybody is looking at hydraulic clamping mechanisms, Vectech spent time designing their own hydraulic system and the application that runs on the OSP control. So if you take any of our, either a lathe or a mill, and you're doing hydraulic clamping, they have their own software. There's no interface, nothing needed from Okuma. You can get a Vectech system and their software that plugs and plays directly the OSP control. Beautiful
They're amazing. There's other people who do what they do, but we tend to try to figure out, hey, what's one or two partners we can really align with, and Vectech is at the top of the list for us.
Right.
So.
And I love your focus on partners, and I'm a little jaded or talk tightly to partners because that's a big part of what I do day to day is, partners and Think, right? So I spend a lot of time. We got 45 partner companies that I try to work and maintain relationships between Okuma and our partner companies. But I think of any part that you pick up. You go around our booth and look at any display part, pick up that display part, and just think about how many companies are involved in making that part.
Absolutely.
Okuma's going to get a big nod because the machine that it was on, but there's at least 7 companies that I can name, from cutting tools to tool holders to coolant to software to fixturing, right?
Yeah, right.
So you got to have that working relationship and people that you can trust that's going to create the processes that you need, that's going to give you the processes.
And every
over
machine
over.
that's sold too, not just every part, but every machine that's sold, there's all sorts of different partners that had a role to play in how that machine came to be, how it was designed, ultimately like how the value is communicated to the end customer who bought the machine. So
Right.
and that we appreciate the opportunity to showcase some of what we do on your machines here.
Yeah, hey, that's a good point. So the MU4000, we've got a MU4000 that's a 5-axis vertical machining center. That's a trunnion machine. We've got a beautiful Aroa automation system. Starts like 5-axis system.
Yeah.
And a Aroa automation
With the quick
system
change pallet delivery
with
system.
the quick change pallets, and you guys provided all the fixturing on that machine. Worked really closely with our application engineer. Talk a little bit about, you've got some really unique fixturing designs.
Well,
on that.
I think a lot of times when people are doing 5-axis machining, they're just taking one self-centering vise and clamping one part, and they don't think, high density fixturing when it comes to 5-axis, because you have all sorts of clearance issues and stuff. So a lot of times it's just one part at a time.
Right.
What we've got there is it's from our partner company in Switzerland, Triag, and it's got eight different parts clamped on various angles.
Right.
So you're actually doing 8 different clamp parts. Might be 4 with op 10, 4 with op 20. I don't know exactly how it's set up, but you're maximizing, even though the work envelopes tend to be smaller with 5-axis machines, you're still maximizing that envelope and making more parts per cycle, extending the cycle time. And okay, well, what do you mean extending the cycle time? But when you're harvesting more parts and you have a longer cycle time, you can have one operator run 2, 3, 4 different machines.
Right. You're amortizing that work, across multiple machines.
And we talk about like lights out machining and getting through the night. If your part has a 20-minute cycle time and you've got, you're doing one at a time and you got 10 pallets, 200 minutes isn't going to get you through the night.
Right.
So if you can maximize the amount of parts you're running in each of those pallets, and then you get enough pallets or whatever it is, then you can actually get through the night making parts the entire time, and that's the goal, right?
Right. That's an interesting point. So that Aroa system, the way we've got it configured, is a 12-pallet system, but to your point, you've got 8 parts on that one pallet.
Yeah, so
You
12
take that
times
times
8. I'm not
12.
a math genius, but
Yeah. But it's a lot, right?
yeah.
Excellent. So as we go from the AME side of your business, we go from 5-axis machining, making a lot of chips, making a lot of parts. Chips have to go somewhere. That kind of automatically feeds into another side of the Goellner family of companies, and that's the
I
Hennig
think
side.
I was one of the first episodes of your podcast, and we told the story of how Hennig got into making chip conveyors and coolant filtration systems, and it's
That's
really
a great
all,
story.
It's
actually,
really
yeah.
all Okuma. So, and you might know the history better than I do, but basically when Okuma USA moved from New York down to Charlotte, Okuma Japan said, "Hey, we need a domestic manufacturer for chip conveyors," and Hennig is partnered with a company called Enomoto in Japan, and Enomoto supplies to Okuma. And so at the time, Hennig was only making telescopic way covers and machine protection products, but that Okuma facilitated that connection between us and Enomoto, and we licensed the technology for them to make machine protection products, and in exchange, they licensed the technology for us to get into the chip conveyor business.
Another great partnership, right?
It's another great example. And so now, actually, chip conveyors is the biggest part of our business. The conveyors, the filtration system. We've kind of got like a unique way of going about coolant filtration with our chip disc filtration technology. So it's all stuff that we've done together with you on some of your machine models, and we'd love to every opportunity we get to do more. So
Yeah. So do you have any new products that you're showing at the show this year?
Yeah, one of them's just a real simple product. It's called the portable sludge sucker. So
Portable sludge sucker.
yeah, we actually had a contest where whichever one of our employees named it got $100. So and that was the one that stuck. But a lot of times, you might be machining something with some scale on it, or you end up with like certain areas of the coolant tank where this sludge tends to build up. And what this is it's a mobile unit that you can plug into any of your machines. It sucks out all the coolant through a cyclonic filter and puts the coolant back into the machine and takes all the sludge out.
Okay.
So, you don't have to buy one for every single machine that you have. We'd love to sell that many, but really you could just move it from machine to machine as needed.
Okay.
And it's a cool little option that we're showing at the show.
So it just basically recycles the coolant back into the system.
And gets all that sludge out. So now we sell chip conveyor and coolant filtration systems that they do it right on the front end, but every once in a while you get certain buildup. Maybe the first layer of filtration wasn't enough, so you get some buildup, and this is kind of like an after the fact option too.
Yeah.
I think as far as what's new, it's more and more integrated systems at Hennig. So, there's high pressure coolant systems, and there's just standard chip conveyors, and then there's coolant filtration. We're integrating all of that into more and more systems where you have your high pressure pumps, not separate from the coolant filtration system, but it's all integrated into one. So
Right.
You've got your chip conveyor, your coolant filtration, and your high pressure pumps all into one tight footprint.
Okay.
Which is attractive to a lot of the builders because everyone's trying to get more into a small footprint space.
Right. So a conversation I had, we had Nicole Walter on the podcast here just a little bit ago.
She's been on our podcast a few times.
She's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
And the conversation actually came up, sparked it during the AMT influencer podcast earlier this morning. We did a little kickoff thing, and they asked, what's some things that came out from yesterday? And I had 3 different conversations with individuals who were getting into let me rephrase that, not getting into automation. They're in automation. They went through the process of adding robots to a machining center, right? So if you rewind the tape 6 years ago at IMTS, everybody was showing robots and showing how do you interface a robot to any machine. Okay, everybody's done that now. And now they're living with, now we're seeing problems downstream that we weren't ready for.
Right.
Chip management issues, chip flow, how do we filter coolant, things of that nature.
Everything has to work together unattended. It's not just about the robot.
And that's where the conversations have really changed, at least for me this year, is instead of talking on the upfront, how do we tie in automation to a machine? It's how do we solve problems that we witnessed after we're doing automation and the machine shutting down at 2 a.m. because of a chip jam or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? We've got filtration units. There's people that we know in the industry that have solved problems, that have these solutions that we can work with.
We've had to make some modifications to some of our standards to add an extra tank, because when you're running that constantly, you're losing coolant in the process. You try to keep as much as you possibly can, but you're losing coolant. And we design our standard around the way machines are designed. Well, even if it's the exact same machine, but it's with automation, you have some additional considerations that you have to think about.
That is a great point, Nick. A lot of our focus, you look at any of our machines, a lot of our focus is floor space. How do we get the smallest footprint possible? Actually, the new 5-axis machine in the corner, that's a 500 millimeter table. So it's the big brother of the 465AX 400 millimeter table. That's a smaller footprint because more will tuck up under the machine. It's actually a smaller footprint. But if you're going into automation, sometimes it's worth having that bigger tank, having more coolant volume to be able to address adding some additional flushing, adding a few nozzles in problematic areas. So,
and you got to be creative with where you're going to get that additional volume, because you don't want to expand the footprint too much. So, that's a challenge. It's a design challenge, and it's a challenge that we take on together with our builder partners, because it's really part of your machine at the end of the day, and we have to work within your confines.
Yep, absolutely. So you guys bring a lot of engineering expertise to the table to help work through some of those problems.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's really our DNA. My grandfather's a German immigrant who invented the first circular carbide production saw. Yeah. And that's kind of like how we got started.
No kidding.
And so we're really machine builders, even though we don't really design and build machines like how you guys do, but our DNA is we're a machine builder company. Sure. So that's why we work with companies like Okuma so well.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about making chips.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you've done through IMTS and leading
I think I discovered making chips when I was on my lawnmower. I was mowing my yard. I was looking for, I think I searched machining podcast, and making chips came up, and started listening. And I was like, these guys are an hour away from me. They're both in the Chicago area. So I started listening, and I reached out to them, and I connected with those guys. We really hit it off. And, fast forward to today, I'm one of the partners and co-hosts, and one of the owners of the company that we became. And we didn't set out like, hey, let's build this media brand and let's get sponsorship revenue and all that. That's just a nice side benefit. What's really exciting is our mission is to equip and inspire manufacturing leaders. You know, people like you, people like your customers, people like me and my peers and my colleagues.
Sure.
And so everything we talk about is literally what's keeping us up at night. What are the problems we're trying to overcome? Everything from attracting the right kind of employees, retaining those employees, keeping those employees motivated, to like the details of the next piece of equipment you're going to buy. So it's a little bit of technical. It's a lot of leadership, but it's all just based on our tagline: if you're not making chips, you're not making money. And so how do you get the most out of every piece of equipment and out of every employee that you have in your shop?
Yep. So, and I'm sure you're seeing it and feeling it. I know as I walk through IMTS, there's more social media presence than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity. John Saunders came in, NYC CNC, came in this morning before the crowd got here, had an opportunity to do a little private tour, a little walk through of the booth. And as we started, there was nobody in the booth. And I did a little private tour down one side. And as we come up the other side, there were 2 other people with cameras going down the other side that passed us.
Well, John is one of the pioneers.
Yeah.
You know, what he's done with his
work.
YouTube channel. He's got a podcast too, and really he's just trying to help other machinists and other shop owners. When you listen to his content, when you watch it, it's always, it's not fluff. He's not trying to, make a big statement and be this celebrity. He's just trying to just communicate and tell you how he solved his problems and help you solve yours. So I really like everything that he's got going on. And I saw something new, and I don't know too much about it, but there's this Battle of the Trades show. It's like a reality show with all these trade schools competing against one another. And I think John's like one of the coaches.
That's incredible.
I'm going to check that out.
And that's cool stuff. And stuff like that, that's what attracts new talent to this industry.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too.
Very good. Nick, hey, thank you so much for being with me today, and look forward to spending the rest of the show week with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.